Hello everybody, my name is Jonathan. I'm an instructor here at Treehouse, and today we're going to talk about XDebug and Visual Studio Code. Before I get started, I just wanted to introduce you to the Treehouse live page, and you can get notified at the top by just clicking on that, and these are the platforms. If you click on one of these platforms, it'll take you to the Treehouse platform, Team Treehouse platform, and at the bottom, here's where you can tell what the live streams are going to be. All right. And this is really cool. Filling this out is the best way to get notifications. You can see at the beginning of the week, you'll get several emails showing you who's going to be talking about what subject. It's pretty awesome. We have really great live streams going on right now, even STEM and live streams for kids with Anwar and Amina that are just fantastic. Gil is doing a lot of great work with CSS. Just sign up and you'll be really impressed with what you see. This is something new that we're doing and it's going really well. So feel free to ask questions. This is an interactive session. So if you don't understand something that I'm sort of talking about, just feel free to go and just ask a question in any of the platforms. And Karen is going to be moderating for us today. So please feel free to reach out. I may not see each individual question, but it'll get routed to me. So let's take a look at GitHub and start diving into XDebug. Okay, so here are the previous live streams that I have. Let me give you some more screen space here. So basically here, what we have is the previous live streams. Today, we're going to be talking about XDebug for, well, this is what I titled it, XDebug for MAMP lovers. And so let's click on this and we'll talk more about why. Okay, so installing XDebug with Windows seems to be pretty straightforward, while setting things up on a Mac can be a little tricky and confusing. There's multiple reasons for that, but one of the things that keeps happening is things change. And starting with Catalina macOS 10.15, PHP is pre-installed. And if you want to use the default macOS PHP, but you want to use the MAMP, there's going to be some conflicts. So let's talk a little bit about how to figure out how to configure these things. There was a really straightforward approach to doing this with Homebrew for macOS, but that's changed, and so we'll cover that. All right, so let me see where my terminal is. Right here. All right, cool. So what PHP version are you using, right? So that's the first thing we want to know before we get started. So let's go ahead and just do that. PHP version. Okay, so 7.38. That's the first clue, right? So let's talk about that. The version 7.38 is what MAMP has installed, right? So if I wanted to use, let me go back because I want to show you what it looks like if you were using the local, well, we can do it either way. Let me continue. So the next step is to figure out which version of PHP you're using. So let's run that command, which PHP. So here is the path. And as you can see, it clearly says that it's in MAMP. It's in applications, MAMP. It's in the bin folder, and it's version 7.38. When I installed PHP using Homebrew, I used, it was 7.4. So let me show you what that looks like. And let's go back to the documentation here. Now it says, if you see this URL or this path right here, then you're using the Mac OS version of PHP. So let's talk about how to change this. And basically what you want to do is just use this code right here. Basically code is, you could use Vim or you could use, yeah, so, whoop. There's some sort of a technical issue here. Please hold 1 second. All right. I think my screen has froze. One second, let me see what's happening here. Okay, so apologies. I think we're back online. We had a sort of a technical glitch there. So let's keep going. Let me make sure I'm still online. Makes it exciting, right? A live stream, you never know what's going to happen. I'm going to have some tea from a treehouse cup. So we're offline. Oh, we're back on. Okay, cool. So apologies for that minor tech inconvenience there. So let's continue where we left off. So as I was saying, code, if you use this code, you could also use Vim or any other code editor that's integrated into the terminal. So let's go ahead and find the terminal, and we're going to edit that file. Okay, cool. So as you can see, I have this one uncommented. So I'm going to uncomment that, and I'm going to comment the second one. And then we're going to try this again. Okay, so I'm going to close this terminal and open it again. And we're going to not do that. Yes. Okay, so now you see that the path has changed. So if I type PHP version, you'll see that I'm at 7.4. So let's review everything that we've done just to make sure. I know we had a technical glitch. So if you're following along and then something happened, we went offline and now we're back online. Let's just recap everything so we're on the same page. Okay, so first you want to figure out what version of PHP you're using, PHP with the -v flag. Then you want to ask which version of PHP am I using? And this will show you the path. And currently we're seeing this path, right? Yeah, so there's a path. So that lets us know that we're using PHP that's local with Mac OS. Now, let's say this is what you see, but you want to use MAMP instead. You just follow the same procedure like this. Wait a minute, didn't I just do this? Okay, so we'll... All right, so then we would just comment this out, and you probably wouldn't be commenting this out. You would need to find this path and just add it inside of the beginning and the end, like this. And you'll have the same results. So let me go ahead and save this. And now we're trying to switch our version of PHP to, let me give you some more real estate here. Right, so we're going to go from 7.4 to 7.3. Let's see if that worked. And I think you can, where's that code? I think what you can do to, instead of closing the terminal every time, is source, okay, and then let's try which PHP. Okay, cool. So you can use source and then ~.bash_profile, and that will sort of pull in the changes that you made to the bash profile without having to actually restart. It's pretty common to close the terminal, but this is a cool thing that you can do so you don't have to do that one step. I'm having some sort of a problem again. What is happening here? Okay, my all right, sorry for the technical troubles here. I'm not sure what's happening, but I'll keep an eye on it. So let's go back to what we were doing, and we should be good now. Let me make sure that we're online. Okay, I think I'm not sure if we're online. We're having some technical difficulties. Let me see what. Still trying to connect. Okay, we're back. Okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on, but maybe it's because everybody's working from home and everything's getting kind of messed up. No problem. So let's go back to where we were. And now we're showing the version of PHP inside of MAMP. Okay, so congratulations on completing the first step. That's the first step. Let's see what else we got. Okay, so I don't have XDebug installed on this machine. There's a reason for that, but let's look at this piece right here. If you do install, if you have XDebug installed and you run this, it's basically, if you say php-v, it'll show you that you have XDebug installed, right? It'll say at the bottom line right here, XDebug and the version. So now we're going to talk about how to install XDebug, which has changed. And so this is the first part. So cool. So we've completed the first part. Let's move on to the second part. Let me give you some more screen real estate. All right. So we basically have three versions, three ways to install. The first version is basically following the directions on XDebug. So let's go ahead and check out the instructions. Let's see where I can get that. All right, here we go. Let's try this link. Okay, cool. So here we are. Now, I think we want to try the wizard. Well, let's go to installation and check out the instructions. Okay, so definitely check this out. Now I'm going to show you the wizard, which is really the most common way to install XDebug, especially on Windows. Let me give you some more screen real estate. And basically, once you're at this URL, all you have to do is type in wizard. That'll take you to the wizard. Okay, so this is what we want to check out. So this is where things get a little bit confusing for macOS users. So let's talk about that. Let's go back to GitHub. Now, if you don't want to follow the instructions that's on the website, and use, once you enter your phpinfo information, it'll give you some instructions here using the wizard. And this is highly recommended because it'll actually use your phpinfo to give you the correct version to download. And once you've downloaded that, then we'll go through those steps. All right. The second version is using Homebrew. And as you can see, it's crossed out. It's not supported any longer. So if you wanted to do something simple where you didn't have to use the XDebug wizard, you would use Homebrew. And that was pretty straightforward. But the new version is here using PECL. And if you click on this, it'll give you some directions. So let's check those out. And it's basically really straightforward. And there's just two pieces of code and that's it. Very straightforward. So let's go back to the repo and let me close this down. All right, before I move on, before I continue, does anybody have any questions? Which method do you prefer, or which method have you installed, have you tried, or which one are you most interested in? And then we'll move on to step 2, which is how to get this running with MAMP, which is really what we're trying to accomplish in this live stream today. So yeah, if you have any questions, let Karen know. And I'm going to move on. So let's say you installed XDebug using this method. Now, here are the two sort of areas that you need to change to add some code, basically this code right here. And that can also be found in Visual Studio Code. So let's take a look at that. We go to So we're going to take a look at the extensions, and let's look for, I think it's just PHP debug. Yep. Cool. So let's take a look at these instructions. Okay, so they have it's much shorter here. And if you look at my repo, it has a lot more options. So there's quite a few options that you can use. But we're going to, if you use this and it works fine, great. If not, we can talk a little bit more about these options. Okay, so we have a question. Let's see. All right, so can you give advice? Can you give advice for Python or C++, which is better for cybersecurity? It's a great question, but it's a little bit outside of the scope of this live stream. So I will keep that in mind. Oh, I'm gonna turn off my notifications. I'll definitely keep that in mind for future live streams. Awesome question though, super important, right? Yeah, so what is the background of your question? And I'll, go ahead and send that message to Karen, and we'll keep that in mind for future live streams. Thanks. All right, so let's keep moving on here. So basically the instructions are here. And so let's cover this. So if you want to install XDebug using the wizard, you want to create a test.php file and put phpinfo so that you can gather that information. There's a couple ways of doing this. The first way is that you can actually click on MAMP. Let me bring that over. And let's see, we can use this. I'll open it in a browser over here. Okay, and right here, instead of adding a test, you can just do phpinfo like this, and then copy all of this information, go back to the wizard, paste it in there, and analyze my output. This will tell you all of the information. Basically, now that I'm using, let me turn this camera back on. So now that we're using MAMP's PHP version, you can clearly see that path here and that path here. If you didn't switch that, you would actually have that path that you had previously. And so that's where people run into problems. So now that we're on the right path, we have the correct paths in the configuration file, and the extensions directory is where you will add the xdebug.co file, which is all cataloged here. So basically it goes through this one line by line. The only thing that I would say to watch out for is to make sure that you are in the correct directory when you're trying to do certain things, and that you have sudo, that you're running the code with sudo rights, because you may not, it may not work otherwise. And then remember to restart the server. So yeah, this is something that, like, if people get stuck on. So the other way to do that is here, and this is also in the repo. So I would follow this instructions for Linux and Macs, and that works. All right, going back to these instructions. So the other way of doing this is by creating a test.php file, and just remember to add this, to start a PHP, add this starting PHP tag, and then when you add this information and then you go to localhost, let's see where that is. Here it is. Okay, so this is in the htdocs directory of MAMP. So I'm able to see this information. Now, if you click on test.php, you would get all of this information. Great. So you would do the same steps, right? You would go to XDebug installation wizard. Let's see if I can go back one. Cool. I'll replace that, paste the same information in, and analyze. And you get basically the same information because we've already switched our paths. The difference is that this path is different. And so it's important to use PHP, to use the right, to get this information from the right place. And what do I mean by that? Basically, this is a folder within MAMP. And so that's where I'm running this. And so I'm getting the correct information. Whereas if I did something like php-ini from the terminal and I copied, let me clear this and do that again. All right, so let's try this again with that information. Well, they're providing the same information except that it's saying that it's from the command line interface. So either one will work. I thought I was going to get a different response, but let me see why that is. Well, I would suggest using the htdocs and then taking the information that this returns and then copying that in. Just even though you're getting the same URLs, I would, or the same paths, I would use this file instead. So let's go back to GitHub. All right. Okay, let's see what else we have here. All right, so step one, let's just review part two. Step one is installing XDebug. If you're on Windows, follow the XDebug, so option A. I would recommend option A for Windows, and I would recommend option C for Mac. And then you want to install, you want to have your MAMP servers running, and then you want to change. So let's look inside of this directory. Actually, we might need to do this for next time. So if you have any questions, let me know. And if we get enough interest, we'll do another live stream and we'll cover installing debug, PHP debug, and verifying that we have XDebug installed. All right, so if you have any questions for next live stream, go ahead and let Karen know. But I think that's it for today. As always, thank you for joining us for this live stream and happy coding.